Hi, this is Jack Stanley, and I just wanted to talk about Gerald Ford for a few moments. It was my pleasure to interview him, meet him, record him, and talk and go over lots of stuff with him, which was really quite fascinating, and correspond back and forth a little bit, which was interesting as well. But the fascinating thing about Gerald Ford is that historically he's a very interesting character because if you think about it, he's the only president we've ever had that was never elected. And he had a vice president that was never elected. It was a very unique moment in our history. So when I was talking to President Ford, I asked him lots and lots of questions. And we ended up talking a lot about his childhood. And you don't really think much of Gerald Ford in his childhood or much was going on. He was so enamored with his stepfather. And his stepfather had a paint store. And in the dark days of the Depression, when things was really starting to get pretty bad, he would work constantly and just make it. That's the way he put it. And Gerald Ford used to go there and help his father out. And he said his father saved up enough money to buy a phonograph. And he said it was so incredible. He said he would sit on the floor in front of it and put on records and enjoy it. And it was fascinating because we were talking about dealing with early recording and using some early devices. But to hear from an individual from a very, very different time. You think about it, Gerald Ford was born in 1913. And that's a long, long time ago now. That's 108 years, his next birthday that he would be. Now, one of the questions I did ask that I thought was kind of interesting, because I think when you ask a politician questions, one of the questions should be, what was the greatest speech you ever saw? And he said, quickly, the greatest speech I ever saw was General Douglas MacArthur before the joint session of Congress when he had been fired. And the thing is, we have to remember with General MacArthur, he was theatrical, so theatrical. And of course, that theatrics got the attention of a young congressman named Gerald Ford, who remembered that also many years later. It's interesting things. There's so many different things that were said, and I wrote down lots of stuff, but every once in a while, things come snapping into the head, and I figure I should mention it now because I'll end up forgetting it. And in many cases with history, I've done so much with history, I've forgotten more than a lot of people will ever know. So I tried to share this if it comes snapping into my mind, and it did. So here we are. And a little piece of history, a little stuff you'd never ever thought about with Gerald Ford, our 38th president.